Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Low Life Plays with another deck tech. This one is Greensleeves, Mario Sorcerer, just some honest green shenanigans where you're just playing lands and making Badger Boys. I mean, that's our game plan, right? So, let's just jump into it, right? Greensleeves is 3 and 2 green for an XX with protection from Planeswalkers and from Wizards. Love that strange protection. It's come in weirdly enough sometimes. Greensleeves' power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you make a Badger. So, our goal is to just make a lot of tokens, play a lot of lands. We're playing a lot of cards that go just get us lands, making Badgers. We have other landfall synergies, so let's see what we're running here. So, Bushwhack. I like this because it gets a land to our hand, or it can make Greensleeves fight something, because Greensleeves will be huge. Running Rampant Growth. Glimpse the Core is nice because it gets a forest. We don't have caves, but we do get a forest for 2. Nature's Lore, classic forest get. Explore. You know, we're running 40 lands, so we'll be able to definitely just hit that land and drop another one and draw a card. Dance of the Tumbleweeds is nice just because it can get us a land, or it has that flexibility of making an XX green elemental, where X is the number of lands you control. So you can make a big boy with Dance if you don't need to get more lands later on. Running Archdruid's Charm. Instant speed land fetching, but also is removal. Plus, it could be a buff, right? +1/+1 counter on target creature control, and then it deals damage, so it could be removal. Really flexible card. Run the classics, OGs like Cultivate, Kodama's Reach. Flare of Cultivation. This time, you know, when you're running Flare of Cultivation, you might not use the sack outlet part of it, but it is still really nice just to have another effect to just get more lands. I mean, that's what we're doing. Explosive Vegetation. You know, I feel like this card hasn't been in a lot of decks anymore. It's gotten pretty power crept, but we want a lot of ways to get lands, so figured throw this in. Migration Path, same thing. It's for 4 mana. This one, you know, has cycling, so it does have a little bit more utility than some of the other 4-cost ones. Sky Shroud Claim, just classic 4, go get 2 forests. These ones don't come into play tapped, so it can really accelerate our game plan pretty heavily, so we love to see that. We got Viewpoint Synchronization from the Assassin's Creed set. Got Free Running, which is really nice, just because if we swing in, hit somebody with our commander, we can pay this for 3 instead of for 5. So that's really good. And then just lets you search for up to 3 basic lands, reveal them, 2 into play, 1 in your hand, and then shuffle. So really good for 5. Or, I mean, potentially 3, because we're going to be swinging with Greensleeves a lot, right? Nissa's Renewal. Search your library for 3 lands. You gain 7 life, so it's a little high end, but you do get 7 life, which is pretty nice. And then just getting so many lands. Titania's Command. Just flexible fetching lands, right? You can go get a bunch of lands with the second mode. You can get rid of graveyards, gain some life, make some counters. Really, really utility card. Awaken the Woods. This is one of the cards that I pulled, and I was like, yeah, this is the one. I pulled Greensleeves later on, and then when I put the 2 together, I was like, this seems like pretty funny stuff. You know, this is a deck I whip out when I just want to play lands, and I don't want to think about doing anything else. Right? I just play lands. Awaken the Woods, I pulled Greensleeves, and then I had to pick up Awaken the Woods just because I love this was one of the reasons I sparked building this whole deck, was I just like the idea of like, hey, Greensleeves comes out, you just slam down Awaken the Woods, make a bunch of lands, make a bunch of Badgers, just go crazy with Awaken the Woods, and the art's just so cool, it's a very good card, and it's just fun to play, you know? We play Greensleeves, and we want to play lands. Open the Way, just, you know, get lands. Really, really good card. And then Nylea's Intervention. Search your library for up to X land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. Super nice there, but also it can deal twice X damage to each creature with flying. So it's a really good just flyer removal if we need that too. Corsair Crewfix. So this is going to start our process of, we're running a lot of land fetches, but we want some other utility too. And being able to look at the top card of our deck and play lands from the top of that is really nice. He reveals it so everyone can see, but he does gain us some life when we're playing those lands. And then Case of the Locked Hothouse is kind of in a similar vein, where you can play an additional land, which is great. And then once you get to 7 more lands, easy breezy, you can look at the top card of your library and you can play lands and creatures and enchantments. So pretty much everything that we're running, we can just start slamming lands. Oracle Muldaya. You can play another land, which is cool. And then you look at the top. We only play with it revealed, and then you can play lands from the top. So don't get stuck. Concordant Crossroads. So this was a recent add to it just because there's a lot of times it's nice to have this in the deck just so when you make a bunch of Badgers or you play a bunch of lands in one turn, You don't have to just hold up with a huge threat and wait for somebody to wipe you. You can Concord at Crossroads and just haste them out. I typically use this as an enabler. I don't keep it out in play most times just because I don't want... It's a global enchantment, so all creatures get haste. And I would just prefer that only my creatures are benefiting from the haste. So we're going to run Staff of Titania. Definitely some, you could probably power this deck up, but I just like some flavorful stuff and a lot of land stuff. You could probably just throw in any land tutors and have a good time with Greensleeves. Honestly, I always joke you could just probably do Greensleeves and 99 Forests, and it could probably be pretty decent. But Staff of Titania, you get +X/+X, where X is the number of forests you control, and then whenever it attacks, it makes a green forest dryad. So it makes a land creature token, so it just synergizes really well. Beastmaster Ascension, we're going wide with tokens. We're going to run Beastmaster's Ascension, right? So we can get the counters on this very, very easily. And then when you have that, you just swing in, have a huge board. And this is also, I always treat Beastmaster's Ascension as like an overrun effect. Well, it doesn't give trample, but I typically play it when I can get all the counters at once, right? You have the creatures in play, slam Beastmaster Ascension, swing, and then you can really turn what they thought was already going to be a lot of damage into something they might not have expected. Champion of Lambholt. This is just one of our combat protections, right? So we're going to be making a lot of creatures, so whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, make this bigger, and then creatures with power less than this can't block our creatures. So really, really nice to get through. Orin Frostfang just gives our Badgers and all of our other little tokens Death Touch, but the big thing is when they do connect, we get to draw cards. So a lot of our card draw is going to be burst, but this is a really nice way to just have it out. We have Death Touchers, so we get some protection, but also are able to draw cards on the back end. Sylvan Safekeeper, I don't run a lot of like our land recursion plan. I didn't go in that direction. You could definitely do that, but I just went and just slamming lands all day. And I've never really had an issue of running out of forests, so haven't had too much of a problem. But this is in here just because you can sack a land and give a creature like Greensleeves, one of our other key pieces, Shroud. And then when I concluded this, I was like, all right, well, let's do a little bit of a recursion plan. Just not really heavy focus in that direction. So we are going to run Springbloom Druid just because it sacks a land and gets 2 lands, so it can really trigger a lot of that stuff and get us some more. And then we're just running Conduit of Worlds, just give us that ability to play lands from our graveyards. We don't really anticipate to have a lot of them in there, so having Conduit of Worlds is just nice, and then it can also get back target permanents if you're slowing down. Just a really nice utility piece. Tribute to the World Tree, amazing card draw in this list, right? Because when Greensleeves makes Badgers, they're 3/3s, so you draw a card, and then anything that you're not making, maybe like your Scoot Swarms, get bigger, so you're not drawing cards, but you're making bigger Scooty Booties, so really, really strong there. Same kind of vein here for Elemental Bond. It's really just here for Greensleeves is making 3/3s all the time, so we're just drawing cards, and there's just such a good engine to have. But if we don't have an engine and we're running low on gas, we need that mass card draw. So we're running cards like Return of the Wild Speaker because we're going to have big creatures. Greensleeves itself is going to be really large. So you can just sack Greensleeves. It's an elemental. So it can also buff your whole board of Badgers and Greensleeves. So it's both. It really helps you if you need that card draw or if you just need to close out the game. Return of the Wild Speaker can really help you out on either of those fronts. Shamanic Revelation, same kind of vein there. Where you're going to draw a bunch of cards because you're going to have a wide board, but you also gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater, which is just super, super useful for us, right? Because we do get, we'll have some big butts out there, and it's nice to have the option to just gain some life, but we're really in it for the card draw. Rishkar's Expertise, draw cards equal to the greatest power of creatures you control. Even if you haven't buffed Greensleeves and you get it out, this is your turn 6 play. Greensleeves is a 6/6. You can just draw 6 and then cast a spell with mana value 5 or less. Seems pretty good. Same vein here with Last March of the Ents. This card is so good. I just don't find a home for it a lot of the time because it's 8 mana. Really expensive, but it can't be countered, which is great. And in these heavy top-end lists, I always think Last March of the Ents can really make a nice home. But you draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, and then you can put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So you can just, your board gets wiped. This is often a really nice just close out the game or rebuild and get you back in. Just instant board state. Really good. Then we get some removal, right? We're going to run Wear Down. Love this card from Bloomburrow. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then if you just give somebody a card, you can blow up 2 instead. That's a fair trade for me. Classic Beast Within. We're running Terastodon. It's a high-end big baddie, and you can just start blowing a bunch of different things up as long as they're non-creatures. So Definitely not as flexible. A lot of people often forget that it's not creatures, it's anything else, right? But that can really be good to get rid of like a glacial chasm or, you know, any other problematic lands or enchantments or artifacts. So, because creatures, I mean, we're going to have a bigger board than most of the creature decks anyway, so they're not really that big of an issue for us most of the time, and we do have some removal. So, Bane of Progress. Blowing up artifacts, blowing up enchantments, that's where I think we really struggle, is dealing with those types of interactions. So I tried to go with more of a wiping kind of strategy with those. So we're running Bane of Progress, and that's also the reason we're running Season of Gathering. So Season of Gathering, it lets you draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Excellent. But it also has the 2-paw mode, where you choose Artifact or Enchantment, destroy all permanents of the chosen type. So you get 5 when you play this card, so you can draw a bunch of cards from Greensleeves or from one of your other big guys, and then also clear out all enchantments, clear out all artifacts. Or if you need to wipe both, you can do that. It's really, really amazing. Super good card. And it also can gain Vigilance and Trample. So if you really need to hit in with Greensleeves too, or some other big creatures, you can really do that. So this is a more of expensive top end, right? I know Finale of Devastation is expensive, but you can also cut this and just run Court of Calling. This will work too, and this is definitely a little bit more affordable. But I just had another Finale from one of the decks I was used to play, and I wanted to just up Greensleeves a little bit in terms of power, and I wanted to have a way to just close out the game. I don't want to have just a huge creature board and not be able to just move on to the next game, right? So that's what Finale of Devastation is for. It is to go fetch our 2 big buffing win cons, right? So that's what this is here for, and that's what Court of Calling is here for. So we're running Enraze Forerunners. You can also run like Pathbreaker Ibex, but I'm running this and Craterhoof Behemoth, right? Craterhoof, people think it's kind of lame, but I'd rather have a guaranteed just like, I'm going to put myself in such a state and we can move to the next game, rather than play like a bunch of lower end, maybe win conditions and not be able to close out the game, right? So that's why I'm running Craterhoof, but I am also running Enraze Forerunners just because, you know, it's nice. It's still a really good buff. Pretty good things to close out. And then we got Multani, so just a big booty, right? It's a similar thing. It just gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land in your graveyard, which is nice. And then you can return 2 lands you control to your hand to return Multani from your graveyard to your hand. So that can be nice in terms of if the game is going really long and you need to start, you know, just facilitating more land drops. You have a few ways to play more than 1 land a turn, and then you have ways to get them from the graveyard, but this lets you just bounce the lands you have in play already, and then reuse those to trigger your landfall triggers. So, Fecund Greenshell. So this guy, he is a crazy buff, right? And he has reach, which is super nice. That's another reason Multani is great, because Greensleeves does not have reach. But this bad boy, if you have 10 or more lands, your creatures get +2/+2. You know, just buff all your boys. Make them huge. And then his second ability doesn't really trigger that often, but, you know, it's still there, so keep it in mind. When it or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you can put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it in your hand. So a little bit of card draw doesn't happen too much. That's not what he's in here for. He's in here for a 4/6 reach that buffs all your creatures, right? That's enough. Springheart Nantuko. Really fun landfall synergy here. You know, landfall, whenever a land enters, you can pay 2, 1 and a green, and if it is attached to a creature you control, and then if you do, you create a copy of that creature. And then if you didn't create a token this way, you still make a 1/1 green insect. So, pretty nice. It's a little enchantment stuff going on, but you can also make some really interesting copies of some really powerful cards, like Greenshell. You can just buff that up. Bristly Bill, this card is spiked, so, you know, he's definitely not necessary. You could swap him out for any other landfall synergy, or more land tutors, or just another big green booty, right? I mean, you don't need this guy. I just happened to pull him, so he's in here. Really fun. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 on counter on target creature. Just nice little synergy. He's a 2-mana 2/2, so I really enjoyed that. And then for 5 mana, he can double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. So we don't have like a big +1/+1 counter theme or anything, but he's just nice to just slowly distribute those and be in that early game while you're ramping, make things a little bigger. Just protect that early game, because Greensleeves is 5 mana, and it does draw some hate just because of how much commander damage Greensleeves can dish out, right? And we are running Lotus Cobra. Just Lotus Cobra. We're running lands, man. We're going to run Lotus Cobra. Just play a land, get mana. Pretty cool. Same kind of reasoning we're going to run Nissa. This one, when a land enters the battlefield, add a mana of any color. And then, if this is the second time this ability is resolved, You reveal cards from the top of your library till you reveal an elf or an elemental. Put that into your hand, rest on the bottom in a random order. So we're not planning to build around that, but there are enough elementals and elves where it happens to work out pretty well. So, and it's just another Lotus Cobra pretty much that just can ramp you out. So I like it. Scoot Swarm. You know, if you don't want to do the math for Scoot Swarm, I've seen so many people just cut Scooty from the lists because it can get overwhelming, but it's overwhelming because it is an insane card. So strong. So Scoot Swarm, it's not that bad, you know. Just double it most times. It's pretty easy. And then Scoot Swarm is just so crazy to overwhelm the board. And then it really helps us a lot when we have a lot of those big buff effects, because this can come out of nowhere, especially with our list, where we're just like, okay, Scoot Swarm, land, tutor a land, tutor more lands, and then you just have an instant bunch of 1/1s that could be buffed out of nowhere. So I love him. Tireless Provisioner, you know, get some food or treasure tokens. You know, this deck really doesn't run short on mana, so never really is that much of an issue, but getting food is nice sometimes just to help cushion those blows to your life and put you in a nice little state where you can manage the board, right? Ashaya, this really helps us with, you know, just facilitating more lands, right? And with the reprint that came out with the newest set in Duskmourn, really excellent thing. And it just turns our creatures, non-tokens specifically, into land drops. So that can be really, really nice. And then it also is just having that XX body where it is huge based on the number of lands that we have. Rampaging Baloths, I mean, it's a 6-mana 6/6 trampler, which is great. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield, you make more 4/4s. So you just make big, more Baloths, just wrecking face, bunch of beasties. We got it. Avenger of Zendi. Classic, very classic landfall creature. So yeah, we're going to run this bad boy. You know, 7 mana, just make a billion plants, and then buff them all up. It's everything we need in one package, right? It makes the creatures, has the landfall trigger, buffs them up. He's big. It's great. We love it. Rapid Vigor. I mean, it's fun. You could probably swap this out for like a Heroic Intervention, but I just wanted to put in a Rapid Vigor. It seemed kind of funny, and I like playing cards that, you know, I mean, Rapid Vigor just, I don't see it ever, so pretty fun. Just regenerate each creature you control. Most board wipes nowadays are going to be exile anyway, but if you do run into like a destroy effect, it can be fun. Swiftfoot Boots. Gotta protect, put those boots on them Greensleeves, and there we go. You know, just give it some haste. Mainly the Hexproof is what we're here for, or the Shroud, because we're not really targeting Greensleeves a lot, so it doesn't really matter. So having these two to not only protect Greensleeves, but any other thing that we might need. And then we get to our lands, right? So we are running 40 lands. We're going to run Dryad Arbor. I'm running just, I'm not running any like super expensive fetches. I'm running Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, Blighted Woodland. We are running Rogue's Passage and Reliquary Tower. So these are our non-forests, right? Everything else is just going to be basic forests for as far as the eye can see. But these are really nice. I especially like Blighted Woodland, you know, just sack it, go get 2 basic lands, put them into play tapped. Really, really excellent. And then all of these types of things can definitely just facilitate a lot of our landfall synergies, in addition to just Greensleeves' own landfall, right? Where you're just making badgers, and you can just really use these and plan them to just drop a bunch of badgers out of nowhere. Reliquary Tower's here just because you saw the card draw that we're running. You know, it's very big bursts of card draw, so having Reliquary Tower can be really, really nice. And then Rogue's Passage, just to make sure Greensleeves can just punch face, right? It can just start taking people out with commander damage. But that's how we're really going to win, is just either commander damage out with Greensleeves, go wide with like a Crater Hoof hit, and that's really what we do. So if you want to play lands, play a bunch of forests, and just do some landfall shenanigans, I think Greensleeves is a great pickup, a great list, super fun, really flexible. I mean, you could probably throw Greensleeves together with whatever you might have. I mean, Zendikar, like Avenger of Zendikar, Rampaging Baloths, I know those have dropped a lot. I know Rampaging Baloths is really cheap. And it's just a really nice build that can be so flexible based on your own collection. And I just think Greensleeves is super fun. And I'm excited to see what people have to say. And people check out the list and see other people experiencing the fun of Greensleeves. You know, if you ever get a land, I always play this deck especially after a game where, like, I don't draw enough land. You know, like, you get mana screwed, and you're just like, man, I want to play lands. I didn't draw the right colors, I didn't do what I needed to do, and you just pull out Greensleeves, and you're like, I'm gonna just play so many lands. It's so many lands, it's so fun. And then you never have to worry about like anything, because you're just ramping all the time, so commander tax really doesn't matter, because people will blow up Greensleeves, because it's scary. But you really just get to swing big things and do big green things. So if you like this list and you like having fun with Greensleeves, let me know. Drop a like, comment, subscribe if you like it that much. But outside of that, I will see you guys in the next deck tag. Bye!